Hello, hello, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Submitted for Your Approval, the weekly card review show for Collective, the community-created card game where you make the cards. I'm Stranger Side, I'm your host. We are joined today by my co-host, Grief.
Howdy, folks.
Joined today by a regular panelist. One of these days I'll promote you to co-host, man. Empty Folder.
Hello, everyone.
And today we have a special guest, a guy I love having on the show again and again and again. I can't get enough of him. WujekMarian, Realm Admin for Concierta.
Hi.
Okie doke. So this week has been super exciting. We've had the Undead AC. We've had the Submitted for Your Approval official card collaboration. I'm missing a C in there. Competition. If you're not already on the Discord, jump on the Discord. We've been having a lot of fun. We got 36 designs, most of which have already been posted. People have been having so much fun making designs and claiming points. I wish I could participate, but I have to host it.
Now you know how I felt with the Legacy League.
We do these things out of love. So let's jump straight into the accepted submissions, starting with the Aspamalgam, which is a 3-drop strength 4/4 Snake Hydra Demon from Duskmere with Rage, draw a card, and you take 3 damage. So Go Chris is back. We talked about this. We're very, very grateful. And this means that his realms are back. He actually had a lot of active involvement, a lot of early like Legacy era realms. And so now a lot of those realms are going to be brought back to the forefront. And I'm excited to see this thing from Duskmere. Isn't Amalgam actually a type we use on something? Is the Wolf Amalgam actually an amalgam?
Like
it is.
There's a cheap amalgam too.
This should be it. Okay. Whatever. Setting aside that I feel like this needs a 4th type, which is ridiculous, just because it just doesn't reg right. Let's talk about design. This has a rage with a drawback. I love overcurved things with drawbacks, and so this makes me happy. What do we think of it? I'll let you start, Grief, because you're the guy who knows most about you take 3 damage and what I can do with that.
In Legacy, there is this cute little archetype that cares about dealing damage to yourself / benefiting from low life thresholds, but there are only a handful of actual payoffs, if at all, handful, with Blood Priest being the most significant card to mention in that case. This card is probably closest comparable to stuff like Greed, which dealt you 4 damage while looking at the 4 top cards, and for each card that you actually pick from the top 4 cards, you were dealt 4 damage because you were adding them to your hand. This does something similar, but has a caveat. Sure, it's basically a vanilla card that has an upside by drawing your card whenever it is dealt damage, but if it's strategically used by your opponent, this means you having a unit on board that effectively nukes nearly half of your HP.
Yeah.
Sure, you get 4 cards out of it, but you also run the risk of basically suiciding yourself by just playing that dude. It's a nice payoff, and the card, as being a demon, has probably pretty good use, especially in Legacy since Forlorn got updated.
Now, this is damage. So one thing you could do with this is if you decided you're tired of the 3 things in the tribe line, you could just slap down a fake fangs on this and make it into a vampire. And then the downside is basically non-existent. So that's a route with it.
Life Bond really helps in that case, or as I said, a Blood Priest also takes every point of damage that you would deal yourself and nukes it right at the face of your opponent as well.
Yeah, so you can do a lot with this probably in Legacy if you want to get creative with it, or in single player. Wujek, what do you think of this?
Oh boy, if this gets hit with a Forest of Cinders, you're not happy.
No. Oh no.
This is probably the most suicidal card I've seen in a while. Like, yes, it is an uncurved vanilla unit that can potentially draw you 4 cards, but holy crap, does this murder you very fast.
Well, so
like,
against certain matchups, like action spam, they could deal you. Yeah.
Thankfully, 2 weeks ago, we actually got a card that benefits from you being low on health with Volcanic Stomper.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so you could plug this.
So
into like
I can actually maybe see this
show.
thing play in Standard even when Strength actually becomes an affinity, which might be next month.
Yeah, I would like to see some more like demons with sort of like the packed flavor on it that could do like the maybe revitalize self damage. That would be neat.
I tried, dude. I tried.
Hey, submit in the SFYACCCC. I don't remember what all the C's are, and maybe you can make it happen. Empty, what do you think?
Oh yeah, this is a great design. I love like these really aggressive suicide cards like this, where it's really overstated, but you can kill yourself. I think like right now this is not in a good place when it gets into standard because we're sort of still in Ashgurdy Dunewalker land.
Oh
And
yeah,
taking a lot of damage isn't something you want to do against that deck. But
Yeah.
hey, when the meta shifts, maybe there's a more controlling meta.
Mhm.
Do some fun stuff with it.
Still not as suicidal as 2 mana 5/5 destroy your hero.
The Malevolent Mind is a 1-drop Mind 0/2 Arcanist Brain from nowhere in particular. With when your opponent draws a card, reveal it and increase its cost by 3 this turn. So this is kind of like a Lost Visitor, but instead of keeping them from playing one card for a very long time, you keep them from playing the next card on top of their deck. Fun synergies in Legacy, just slap this down with a Whims of Fate and watch them freeze in place for a turn. But then again, if you're in Legacy, you might be doing nastier stuff like Binding Mage or Finding Mage or whatever. But you know, it slaps into that kind of shell where you can do all sorts of hand control shenanigans. This is actually a control card that I would have fun playing with in single player, which is a lot because usually in single player I just do lame combo shenanigans or whatever to just do it. Empty, what do you think of this?
It's sort of trying to play into that like handlock style archetype with like thought suppressor and like you said, like wheel effects that make people redraw their whole hand and just shuts them down. The like it's a very weak body though, so you have to be playing like a really specific deck, I think. And I don't think in standard that deck has enough tools. Maybe in Legacy.
But if someone's like holding on to their 3-drop with hopes that they'll draw into a 1-drop and you slap this down on T1, you're gonna make them cry, is what's gonna happen. Grief, I should have let you go first on this one. You go first on this one.
Oh no, Empty said a lot of things about a card that basically is the way to play with it. The good thing about it is, sure, it has a weak body, but the potential it has is based on its cost, since this is a very good turn 1 play. And the problem that a handlock / hand stun deck had was they weren't basically doing anything before turn 1, before turn 2. So playing this turn 1 into a thought suppressor, into a binding magician / finding magician, you can go ham while locking your opponent's hand down, which gives you the ample time that you could actually need to go into more plays, and that, especially since that deck also just got idle contract, which allows you to also use the summon-esque effects that this deck would run, like like Mr. Stare and stuff like that, where you could technically lock down each and every card of your opponent's hand and only make them play cards that you know you can answer.
I like it, definitely. And Wujek, what do you think of this?
Much everything has already been said. I personally, the part I like though is the reveal. Yes,
yeah.
I do want to know what I'm discarding with my sheets. Thank you.
Exactly. Idle contract. Play this. Idle contract turn 2 or 3, depending on how you ramp. Scarlet Ursika.
Yeah, this is where we kind of need like an is revealed property that lets you reveal and unreveal stuff, because with the way the reveal currently works, it's going to be like, here's card number 1, here's card number 2, here's card number 3, but that's whatever. That's a UI issue. That's on ODS.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
It kind of makes me sad that it won't be standard playable though.
Yeah.
No way.
Armor Forge is a 4-drop neutral 2/5 Thrym from Thoma. Thoma, guys. Thoma. With stock 3, you have Endure equal to your stock, and when you take damage, pay 1 stock. So this is a stock design. This is an endure design. This is forwarding all of those cool things that the players have been doing recently, which makes me excited. This is also a Thrym. A Thrym is a purple thing with large ears, and that's about all I know about it.
It's
It's
an
from
elf.
Thalma, which is the place where Thryms are from. I'm
You don't
excited
know,
about
you
this.
don't know the lore of that place, do you? By the way,
Thrym from Thalma.
by the way, these former needs to actually do find a purpose in their life and have to actually try to re-achieve and re-achieve something or invent something throughout their entire life, because the older they get, the less they can do and the less they're worth for the society or the culture of Thrym. Meaning that the older, the elder you get as a Thrym, you're basically getting kicked out of society because you're worthless.
Oh, so that's why they're always like occupational things. Okay, that makes
Exactly.
sense.
They're basically a mix between elves and Pathfinder gnomes.
Anyways, MT, why'd you pick this one? You picked this one, right?
Oh, yeah, because it does three very important things. It is a stock design that actually cares about getting more stock. It gets exponentially better the more stock you give it. So it actually is something that makes me excited for a potential stock synergy. And the other thing is it is endure on a player, which is sort of a new niche. And I think there's a lot of really cool places you can take that.
Yeah. That could be really cool. Do you think this has a place in standard?
If those stock like boost effects get it, then yes.
Okay.
But with none, probably not.
I think this is pretty hardy in 3 stocks a little bit, but it is when you take damage, you lose the stock, so definitely. Wujek, what do you think of this?
One thing is that this is not seeing play in standard until there's more stock support, and more importantly, the meta needs to shift a bit, because a 4-mana 2/5 that just gives you free health against Dunewalkers really isn't that impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
especially with all the health loss they have that doesn't actually proc damage.
Yeah,
like
and of course,
Dunewalkers can actually kill you through this.
Yeah, and there's the weird thing with multiple instances of endure still doesn't work quite the way it ought to, and so you get all sorts of weird shenanigans there. But Grief, what do you think of this?
So does it lose 1 stock for 1 damage, or
Just 1 stock? Flat tax.
Ooh. So you could use this in self-damage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Soften the blow.
Technically, then this has a place in Legacy, partially similar to stuff like Borrowed Time, whereas Borrowed Time is a little bit more effective than Armor Forge, since you get a flat amount of life and a constant income of self damage due to procs of Borrowed Time. But depending on how you could actually build a stock self-harm deck, you could technically negate most of the drawbacks of self-damage and reproc self-damage effects.
Of course, yeah, I do agree that we do need more stock designs, more like stock increasers specifically. But of course, that'll happen with time.
Personally, I'm also interested in how the order works with this thing.
Bro.
Like, let's say you play Twin Kunai when this is at only 1 stock.
Oh.
Do you take 1 damage or 0?
I think
if this is at 1 stock and the opponent plays an Aragos, do you take damage or do you take none? This is something that I'm gonna probably test when the card actually gets in, which about time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Stalkpack Hunter is a 3-drop strength 3/2 wolf from Woollyland. Woollyland, guys. Woollyland. With summon, if an ally was damaged this turn, create a copy of this. So this is like a bloodthirst effect. I like this. Caring about if you get damaged in the early game, or maybe you can do some shenanigans with like your Portal Beast or whatever. We need more cards that let you like play stuff after the combat step. One thing I don't like about this card, so for those of you who don't know, in Woolly Land, there's these factions. There's the Stalkpack, there's the, what are the names of the other packs?
I mean, a sheepkin, a kingdom.
No, within the wolves, there's the Merge Pack, the Stalkpack, Shadow Pack, and you get into this problem with the names of these wolves, where it's basically faction nouner, and this is a faction nouner. It's the Stalkpack Hunter, Stalkpack Pouncer, the Shadow Pack Somethinger. Like, I feel like
Time
that's
to something is something.
reference by name.
Yeah, these names are kind of getting a little blendy pens, but that's okay.
Time to reference by name, I guess.
That's something that I remember hearing about. Like when making cards, you should probably avoid something is something, but with Woolly Land, it's kind of hard.
Yeah. So yeah, I like the two. I love the art. I think this is actually one of Spikebird's, like one of my favorite Spikebird arts, actually, just because of the simplicity, the cleanness, and the vibe, the sheer vibe it exerts. I love the effect because it's an interesting, like, it's a design space I think we should play around with. Like, if you were damaged, do something. It could give us some valuable potential, like anti-control tech or self-damage tech. We end up keep talking about that this episode. So yeah, that could be really fun. Wujek, why did you pick this card? What do you think of it?
What this card really wants in the game are 2-mana strength / neutral duelists. That's what this would make this card super good. But right now, we only have one with Werewolf.
Yeah.
Yes, there are other ways to proc it, obviously, and like they don't necessarily have to play this on turn 3, obviously. But damn, getting 5/5 worth of stats on turn 3 would be juicy.
Yeah, I think it's the right combination between, like, you have to meet a specific condition and you get a decent reward.
Definitely.
What do you think, Grief?
Fits right into Legacy Wolves. The deck has been not really doing too hot, but Legacy Wolves was the main core / shell for Legacy Duelist deck, which we have quite a plethora of, as well as self-damage ping effects that could actually be played right beside this card. But yeah, the only reason why you would actually play a Stalkpack Hunter is if you actually have a good amount of duelists, because the later the game, the longer the game goes, the more unreliable the trigger actually becomes.
Yeah.
And playing a 3-cost 3/2 is very bad.
Yeah. MT, what do you think of this?
I don't know. I actually think this card is a little weak. I think the downside where you have to play this as a 3-mana 3/2 is just so astronomically bad that it may not be worth running. Like the situation where like you're running that duelist deck, if your opponent just removes your duelist the turn you play it, and this is your turn 3 play, like you do not want to be stuck in this situation.
So it's very initiative dependent, though. Because by the same token, if you had the last play there on that turn on turn 2, then they're going to remove it at the beginning of turn 3, and you might end up proccing it because of that, right?
I mean, if you're playing against a control deck, like a lot of the time, they should be open passive because they want to be playing reactively.
Yeah.
Like if the game is progressing and neither player is doing anything, the control player is winning because they win the late game.
I guess that even right now we don't actually have we have a duelist that actually cannot be removed turn 2 by control.
Oh, that's good.
With what's the name? Bell Who Tolls. That's a 2-mana 1/4. You're not removing that for 2 mana.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I still don't think it's gonna see play the second it gets into standard, but
Wait a second, I'll
someday.
be back in.
Yeah. Okay, Grief is sitting out this one. I think that's what he implied, right? Let's get into the active submissions, starting with the Elder Gwurm, which is a 4-drop spirit 4/4 goblin worm from Perodus with overrun, and when this damages your opponent, your units get +1/+1. So the first thing I noticed about this thing is this is really making me start to question goblin biology. Given that apparently Perotus just has these things floating around. This was for the SFYA Quad C thing. And it was based around this really cool sculpture that Hanoi made. So this gives you, this is very interesting because this is very beneficial in like Go Wide Baluk. Basically, I mean, it's a little tough to get out for that kind of deck, but if you do, the payoff's, I think, really decent. And I think it provides an interesting challenge. It's also, I forgot to report how it's doing on this sub. Grief, what do you think of this?
Elder Worm, basically, a card that we needed for token Go Wide for a long while now, because in this case, we want to get more into a range for Spirit. Like, okay, we now had a mid-range playing style. We had a partially control for a while. Now not anymore, really. But our token game / token Go Wide, especially with plans and stuff like that, was a little bit lagging behind in our standard format. Problem is getting the effect of this dude off. You could say, okay, sure, we can. We could just go with the detect pattern, but do you really want to have your best Lord effect? To have your best Lord effect basically be just temporarily active. So sure, while it's a 4/4 overrun, goes over many other steps. The later you play this dude, the more worthless he becomes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the other thing is he does have one advantage over regular Lord, which is that his buff sticks, right? But of course, you're probably not going to be able to get it off twice, or you might against certain boards. You might not even be able to get it off once, depending on how removal heavy they are. But I think it's cute. I think it's a good design.
No, what I meant is the later you play him, desto higher the point loss and damage is, because the moment his attack, because the moment his buff triggers is when he deals damage. So the later he's in attack order, means that no other unit before him actually gets the buff, which you actually want to have.
Yeah. Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I think it's just going to be too hard to actually get this in to damage your opponent.
Overrun isn't enough. What do you think it needs?
Yeah, maybe like high attack and then a lower health stat.
Yeah, I think if he got out a little earlier and maybe it was like a 3-drop 5 and then dump the HP a little lower, that's what I do.
I don't think I go that far, but
okay.
It definitely needs like a different distribution, because like at turn 4, a 4/4 just isn't going to get in most of the time.
Yeah, so at least a point of HP moved over to attack. I wish he could get out a little bit earlier, but that's just my opinion on it. Wujek, what do you think?
When I actually have to disagree, I feel like the stat line is fine. It's more that I don't think you can actually make this good, but make it blatantly over curve. I don't think that stat proof for this would have works. Maybe in some world 3/5. But the problem right now is that it's a 4-mana unit with no relevant tribes that dies to 3-mana removal that then needs to actually damage the opponent. Wow, that's slow.
Hey, he's an old man. He's still
very
slow
in
his
and
prime
very
and making
difficult
steps in the world, and I don't know.
The only world in which I can actually see a card like this seeing play is by some miracle scenario, we get token Kyung-mi that runs Unguian Sharpshooter. And this
that would be cool.
Insta hits.
That was a cool idea. Thank you for giving that to me.
But that is really magical Christmas Wonderland. Like, no.
Yeah. So Gallows Humor. There's a theme behind my cards. Are we following? No. Gallows Humor is a 0-drop spirit action from Hallucinogenica. While this is in hand at the end of turn, if 3 or more units died this turn, discard this and return one of them to play. So this should have been exclusive because technically the affinity doesn't matter, but whoops.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Wujek, you want to talk about the process designing this card, and then I'll get into what I think of it.
It just happened.
Just happened.
There was no process. It just happened. I'm gonna be completely honest. I just turned off my brain and just wrote down some words on a card, and it was like, oh, I guess this is what it is now, huh? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I do think this sort of hand trigger thing is really interesting. I'm worried that it's a bit too much free value potentially, but you do lose card advantage, so maybe I can forgive that. This just gives you like secret ward, but reactive ward, where you could bring something back, potentially trigger its entrance effect if it has one. And I guess you could theoretically use this to return one of your opponent's units to play if you're feeling generous. Or if they were running that worm from the accepted submissions, bring it back for round 2. Flavor-wise, I think this is really cool. I think this is Hallucinogenica doing what it does right. Spike did a great job with the art. I definitely think this needs exclusive or a little bit of a balance tweak, but it's doing... it's sitting at like 2 with the sub, so I think people are having maybe some issues with it we should talk about. I like the card for the most part. Grief, what do you think?
By
I don't
the way,
get
this was meant to be exclusive. I just forgot to put the star on it.
Yeah.
Why though? I mean, the thing is, with
It's kind of...
It doesn't matter. The affinity only matters if it's
Yeah.
exclusive.
yes,
kind
but
of
the
gets
thing
into
is,
it.
the thing
Neutral
is, let me just explain why this doesn't actually matter to begin with. We have 2 cards that operate on the same principle in Legacy: Dust Settler and Jumping Spider. They may have an
That's
affinity, but they don't really care about the affinity because they have in-hand triggers that allow them to be played without their cost.
But this can only do that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the difference.
That's the key
And-
difference here, Grief.
And the thing is, you don't hard play any of the cards that I've mentioned before.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're
Because
not hard
Dust
playing a
Settler-
3-mana 4-2
Because Dust Settler is very, very fucking bad, but has basically the exact same trigger condition as Gallows Humor.
There's a small difference.
I
Since
am-
Gallows
I
Humor is all
am-
units,
Yeah,
not allied.
I am very much in favor for more cards that may have an affinity because they can trigger off effects that care about affinities, but are basically affinity agnostic. So we can have more free value, quote unquote, effects that allow us more flexibility in deck building. So this is something that goes into the same discussion of what is splashing actually meant to be in our game, and this is going into a basically right direction because I would love to slap this into a self-sec deck. I would love to play this in a token deck in Mind. I would love to play this in an Undead/Entomb deck in Spirit, and anything in between. So this just bridges very important gaps in these kinds of crossover.
My other thought is like, because Essence Shifter exists, the only use the affinity has currently is breaking the card. Like, that's the only thing it's busy doing right now.
That's
is
not
making
really
the
Okay,
card
I'm gonna
way
be
low.
honest, Stranger Side, you
That's-
lost me.
That's not really
Like,
bad.
keep in mind that for a tempo deck to run this with Essence Shifter, they also have to be running 12 more of affinity cards, which isn't that easy
Okay.
without absolutely murdering your tempo. Like, that's the thing. That's the reason why Essence Shifter was mostly played in control decks so far. Paying
Okay.
+1 for a unit is really bad.
I'll defer to your guys' expertise on matters of multiplayer. MD, what do you think of it?
I mean, I love this design. Wujek, whatever random thoughts resulted in putting this down. It was good thoughts. This is a fun design. I think like the thing that I like most about this is like the fear factor. Is like when your opponent removes one of your biggest units, they have to be like, oh shoot. If 2 more units die this turn, they're gonna get that back with Gallows Humor if they have it. So that like really complicates combat and puts your opponent in like these really interesting and awkward positions, which is really cool.
I'll say that
And,
if there's
yeah.
there's one thing I would change probably about this card when I resub it. Probably just change it so it's allied units specifically.
Yeah.
Oh no, don't do that.
I don't know. I
Please.
feel like it might be a good balance factor.
Please
Try to
don't.
increase the number.
Please don't. This is exact because if you actually make it so that you have to pick a card, that means that you would be forced to actually bring back a unit from your opponent.
That
Yeah,
is true,
that's-
actually. That
It's
is
such
true.
a
That is
great part of
fun.
the card. I love the fact that it does that.
Yeah. Okay, the plastic lawn flamingo is another thing from the Quad C. 2-drop neutral 0/4 flamingo curio from Carthian. End of turn, if you control 3 or more flamingos, deal damage to all enemies equal to the number of flamingos. I do not know if Sporium's intent. I do believe that this effect doesn't stack, even though it doesn't say so. I would really hope the alternative is not true. So let's pretend like this
No,
effect
it's
doesn't.
This
stack.
effect absolutely should stack with how this card
Yeah.
is worded.
Really? It stacks? Awesome. Okay, it stacks. So like 9
The
damage,
reason
guys.
why I know this definitely stacks is because this is Desert Obelisk from
Yeah.
Hearthstone.
Oh,
It
Actually
is
good.
heavily inspired.
okay.
Yeah, the difference between this and Desert Obelisk is that Desert Obelisk, I believe, only dealt damage to 1 unit and always 5. And it was a 5 mana 0/5 or something like that. It was a
Yeah,
horrendous
it
card
was,
in that game.
Like even more memey than this.
Okay, so here's what this is, and here's why I like this. I like this obviously because Carthian. One thing this does though, and this is the really corner case thing, it actually benefits from tribe changing and tribe stealing effects. So this works with Growlix in a way that no other card does. So technically, you don't even have to be running a bunch of copy effects to go full Mingo.
Oh,
You spared that
formless
pun.
fruit.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh my
you
God.
can
Formless
do-
fruit's
beggars,
time
let's
to
go.
shine.
Oh, formless fruit finally has a use?
yeah, so you can sync
It
this up
happened.
with formless fruit and a bunch of token decks to go full meme Carthy deck status.
So finally copying tribes actually matters outside of birds.
Yes.
Incredible.
So there's
Wow.
definitely a lot of cool things you can do with it. I really, and that's why I really like the design. It's not doing too hot on the sub, but a lot of these are still picking up steam, and they're buried by Goken's cosmetics.
Just think of a world where you basically only play copy actions and 2 shapeshifters, and this in a bird deck. That means that you either get curios of plastic flamingos, and Baldwin puts a flamingo token onto the board.
Or we could update Flash Flamingo, and then in Legacy you can have another way to do this.
Oh my God, no! This is actually kind of funny then, because all Flash Flamingo gives all cards flash.
Is it all?
Fast.
No,
is
it's
it all?
actions.
All,
It's
all
all,
specifically
actions.
all actions. Okay, I thought it was all cards. Yeah, okay. Still, that's still hilarious if we actually make Fast Flamingo Flamingo. And
Okay.
at that point, we could actually make a flamingo deck, as stupid as this sounds.
So we got people excited about this dumb idea, which means I think the card has absolutely executed on its premise, and I'm excited. I really hope people really wanted to spread awareness about this idea because I think Sporian put a lot of love into it.
I'm on board with a meme.
Does anyone want to say anything? Because we all kind of chirped in on that.
Yeah, I'll just say this card is bad, but it's funny bad, and I'm all for it. Y'all out there playing Bellist Greenman, I'm out there playing Bellist Lawn Flamingo OTK. I'm living for that. Just give me something to discount my entire hand by 1 so I can fetch them all out with Quetzalcoatl.
Oh my God! No, don't forget, you can tutor them in Legacy with recruits, because they have.
Oh yeah.
This deck
Oh.
actually doesn't sound that bad. This is amazing.
Hey, Mingo, let's go. Let's go.
This has been a PSA from the Plastic Lawn Flamingo Society to go vote up Plastic Lawn Flamingo. I think we're done talking about this. Or does anyone have an angle they still want to cover?
Let's move on before this is submitted for your approval, Bingo Edition.
Sabrotha the
So you
Overture.
see, this you combo with flamingos.
Does it combo with, yeah. Sabrotha the Overture is a 6-drop neutral 7/3 human scientist demon from Tutela. It's a legendary. Whenever this changes zones, banish another random allied card from the new zone. When this leaves play, play a copy of all cards this banished. Then put this in a random non-play zone. So this is really, really interesting because it lives to die and it's got a 7/3 stat line to match, and it plays a bunch of random junk. So this feels like the random, the Tutela side of the randomness. And well, what was the prompt that inspired this, you ask? It's a WujekMarian prompt, so maybe you can think ahead. It's a realm crossover card with Concierta. So it's about Sabrina and Golgotha ended up getting mixed together, and this is shown on Fusion Project. And now they're going to dance. So now they're got a Concierta realm mix in there. Grief, go first.
I'm still reading the card for the 4th time, and I still don't know how to best utilize it.
Okay.
You play this in a spirit ramp deck with a bunch of big baddies, and you just
Okay.
put this into play, it dies, and you put like Old World Titan like a Kadar into play.
And then you
That's a
pray.
TLDR for you.
It piggybacks on the I'm gonna dump a bunch of random stuff. The more you can change my zones. You also ideally want a way to get this to change zones extra times, which I guess there's not a lot of ways to in Spirit, but maybe you're comfortable just having her go from deck to hand to play, then dying, or what do you do to get that first trigger off?
The thing is, I really want to love this card, but I don't know what to do with it.
I think it almost needs to banish random stuff from the old zone.
Do I need to chuck it into self-mold? But no, this could actually ruin my self-mold deck. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, again, you just play it with big stuff. You just play the ramp, this is what you put out. It dies, you get a lot of value. It's as simple as that.
Wait a second, plays a copy, yeah.
Yeah, it's
No,
really not that deep.
No. Do you know that my entire understanding of the card is that it puts the cards in non-play zone as well.
Oh, okay, I see.
That's why it took me a really long while to actually understand the card's purpose.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, at that point, yeah, okay, self-mold with big stuff.
This has really funny interaction with Old World Titan, actually.
Yep.
Goes into the graveyard, first place Old World Titan, hey, I go human. She returns to play. That's cloudy.
Yeah, so this can do a lot of potentially weird and interesting stuff. It's a little complicated to read at first blush, and it requires a lot of interesting lateral thinking, and for that, I love the design. There is, and I know Empty, I'm going to give Empty the next chance to talk, because I know he's probably a little bit worried about the whole, it's both random, and I don't know what random stuff disappeared from certain zones. And I think that is maybe a little bit of a drawback of the card, but I think it almost adds to the build around potential. What do you think, Empty?
Yeah, so that is part of the problem. I think like the main issue is like this is kind of bad, at least I think, because like man, having this in your deck is just terrifying because these can potentially just completely bomb out your hand if you draw them at the wrong time. Like you have no control over what this is banishing when you draw it. Like, you could potentially draw this turn 2 or 3 and lose your play for that turn. And obviously, like man, like the RNG factor on this is too high for me.
Yeah, I think, and I don't even know if you want to be running more than one of these because they don't share a little banish pocket. So If you're running 3 of these, then you could lose the banish pocket from one of them, and then you're just like milling random cards from yourself. And so
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to think
also,
about.
like double drawing this is going to be a death sentence a lot of the time because you've lost 2 cards from your hand.
Yeah. So I don't know about how this is balance-wise. I love it flavorfully, and I love the fact that it makes me think, but it doesn't necessarily only give me good thoughts. So let's continue with the 5th card in a row from the competition with Horrific Hatching, which is a 3-drop spirit action from Thoma, guys, with destroy a unit with 3 or less attack, return a 1-cost unit from your graveyard to play. So this is designed to synergize with green men. That was expressly part of the prompt. It's interesting because the art gives me vibes from like Underlabs Enigma, but I just really just love the kind of the style and the picture here is so pretty. What this does gives Spirit a little bit more flexible removal for a bunch of small utility units, so maybe good tech against like Dunewalkers or something. I don't know. Oh, definitely Dunewalkers because it hits all of them. I was thinking it's a cost for some reason. Dunewalker be gone. But it also can hit other potential utility or aggro units, and then you get a new green men back out of your graveyard. Or you can use it with some of the other cards that he designed, like the Calling Worms thing, or just, I don't know, maybe run Legacy Cats. Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, this is a perfectly fine card. I think it may be like a little bit undercurve at some point because like the 3 or less attack thing against some decks, that's not going to be very valuable, make it not very valuable. But we are in Dunewalker meta, so this is basically target everything right now. So right now it's pretty good. Yeah, solid card.
What do you think, Wujek?
Not a fan. Personally, not a fan purely on the basis that Legacy League taught me one thing. 3 or less attack is really not that big of a requirement. It's really not that hard. And even when I'm thinking of the standard decks right now, only one deck actually, well, kind of 2 decks come to mind where this won't see a target. Those being Osh Ramp, if you're playing a very unit low variant of that deck, which you're probably not doing that, so that doesn't really count because Green Meadows got yeeted out of existence. And Spirit Ramp. And in that deck you still run what's the card called? The 2 mana 0/3?
Mana Maiden?
Shrine.
Oh, Shrine, yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about standard here. In Legacy, obviously this is a lot of targets in pretty much any deck.
Bear in mind that
what I'm seeing here is 3 mana hard removal with an upside, and I do not like that. That is stinky to me.
Well, it still doesn't remove everything. It still is conditional removal. But the other thing is it needs to be able to find a target because we're a game without a sideboard. I can see it, like, especially against the Ush deck you mentioned, I might have to target one of my weaker green men to get a bigger green men back.
Which is fine.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing is, you know, I want to be using this against you, and you're right, I'm probably going to reliably be able to find a target, but might not be able to pick the target I like, which is, I think, fair. I think this is a fair card. I agree with that.
It's very hard for you to not be able to find a target you like. Like, if you're killing anything that costs 2 or more mana, you're happy.
I mean, when we had Spook Blast in Standard, like, you could recur that all the time, and that wasn't too strong. I think the upside here is, like, minor enough.
Spook Blast was just 3 mana removal, though. It didn't give you tempo. It didn't also give you a unit. It's fine.
It did give you tempo because you could get it back.
You have advantage, but
Grief, go.
also, Spook Blast was restricted to specters of all things. And we all know how great specters were. Wind Coalesced
time in the sun for like 1 month, and then Essence Shifter came along. You can't run them anymore.
And even then, they were questionable.
Hey, I still think they were pretty good for that.
There are people who think I think they were like a solid, okay deck, but like not top tier. Maniac Oku was just a whiny bitch.
Grief, what do you think of this?
I love every aspect of it. Sure, we have quote-unquote hard removal and legacy that is at 3 cost. Even then they are conditional, and the thing is that because they feel so hard removal as is due to the abundance of good targets that they can hit, which is actually fine because it balances out the value between units and aggressors. Thing is though, it also negates many of the control unit aspects because most of them rely on their high HP pool to actually be worthwhile. So this hurts a lot of these units again. On the other hand, this is something that Spirit is actually lacking because Spirit is questionable the weakest affinity in Legacy, not because it has no good cards or something like that. I mean, it has access to Spirit and Self, to Spectres and Self Discard as a shell. That's probably one of the best engines that we can actually play in the game. But in their suit for actions and control tools, to actually get to the point where, okay, I established my board now, I can play my game plan, I sustain something, and I can actually fend off the most fastest and strongest decks, which still, in Legacy, were stuff like Dune Walkers, Flame Elementals, and I nerfed that deck to stone, Dwarves, etc., which all run on an extremely low curve, with scaling effects or scaling abilities that help you just close out the game on turn 5 latest. So this is just another good tool for A standard and B legacy to basically find a balance between, oh yeah, we shouldn't put extremely potent effects on lower cost cards, and if that or lower attack value cards, and if that happens, we still have this one important tempo answer against them.
Yeah. I don't know. I like it. Unguian Javalineer, another card from the competition. 1 drop, strength, 3/1, leaves above from Unguia with entrance, deal 1 damage to the opponent and yourself. Wujek, what do you think of this?
It's a good strength 1 drop with an aggressive stat lane. This is how you do an aggressive stat spread, people. You give it something where even if it is removed, you're not completely sad about it.
I do. The one thing that I think,
can we not get like weekly discussions about how aggressive stat spreads are so bad in collective because the removal is so good?
One thing I do that does make me a little bit sad about this, and this is very minor, is that the other 3/1 strength drop is also Elizabeth. So I kind of,
but Rock Puncher is just a joke. That card
Rock Puncher is just a joke. This is just Rock Puncher plus, really,
because it's just
it's
just bad. It's the Rock Puncher is aggressive stat spread done wrong. This is aggressive stat spread done right.
Okay.
So
that's good. Yeah. I just wish that they picked a different tribe, given that we already have the other 3/1, or that they in hindsight would have been nice to update Rock Puncher to this, but whatever. This is for the competition. So you like it, Wujek? Empty. What do you think of it?
Like, listen.
I like this card, but like as you said, sorta. I'd rather they just update Rock Puncher to have this effect as an entrance, so we don't have sad old Rock Puncher as a reminder of what could have been. And, Javalineer, his more successful cousin. So, but it's a fine design.
Honest, we all knew that Rock Puncher was not gonna see play.
Well, I mean, the fix for a Rock Puncher was something Grief outlined pretty well. If it was just neutral, that would actually be pretty. That would be at least compensate for some of its weakness by letting you run it in more decks. And I wouldn't be surprised if this gets in and we see that cosmetic update, or not cosmetic. That would be an update. Grief, what do you think?
I love everything about that card because it's a Lazabo, 1 cost, 3/1, and the entrance effect is actually worthwhile. The only thing that basically rubs me the wrong way is the wording.
Yeah,
they deal 1 damage to both players. Dumb.
Yeah, like it was interesting that there was so much work that was done with using damage. It could have fit more words if it needed to, and it just could have said both players. But
Yep.
that's okay. That's something we could easily fix or even bug fix, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. It's just, as I said, this is me wording and deal, capitalize.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Just
sorry,
a couple minor grammar issues.
sorry. I know it's some kind of dickish nature of me, but I've seen too much wording. I just want to have decent wording.
Okie dokie then.
This card looks like it was specifically made for that one mad lad who plays Helden Dune Walkers, by the way. He's out there, you know.
The Junk Jumble is a 2-drop spirit 2/1 ooze from Mortstall, Realm of the Dead Things, with Entomb, draw a card. This card does not have a lot of text. So who picked this? Empty, this was your pick?
Yeah.
Why is this a lot to talk about?
It's very interesting because I think this card is too weak in collective, but it's a card that has been printed in a lot of other card games, and there it's on balance. So it's interesting to look at like why we have
that's
stuff
a
like
good
Elder
thought.
Freshman, which is just exponentially better than this card. And like this just isn't the standard for a card draw on a unit for collective.
So what kind of push do you think this would need to be playable?
At least a 2/2, so it doesn't die to all the 1-cost removal in mind.
Okay.
I would actually disagree with that. 3/1. That would be juicy.
Ooh, that'd be interesting too.
So it needs a stat point and it can go into either stat. This is the first card we've talked about that isn't for the comp. Wujek, any other thoughts on this?
It's Loot Hoarder. Korn specifically made this after seeing Loot Hoarder.
Mm.
And yeah, it's kind of funny. I was thinking about this card for a while now because back then I thought like, yeah, no, Loot Hoarder was fine. This is gonna be fine as well. But to be fair, Elder Freshman is a pretty bad comparison. Like, yes, it does the same thing essentially, but let's be honest, Elder Freshman is a bit overcurved. I
Hasn't
wouldn't
been
really call
nerfed
it a
yet.
fair card. It's one of those cards that like it is pretty blatantly overcurved, but not problematic enough where it needs a nerf. Kind of
Well,
like a Banner Sister.
Yeah, well, there's room to talk about how Cornmeal and Spike are really, really great designers that can get cards very reliably. And part of how they do that is pushing our curve just a little bit. And it's surprising to see that this could have been better because normally I've seen Corn do some stuff where it's just a little bit too push.
Maybe like at the most give it a stat point. That's fine.
Yeah, I think give it a stat point. I definitely agree with that it seems a little underwhelming where it's at. Grief, what do you think?
Yeah, +1 attack, because you want to have this unit actually die, and it should feel bad for your opponent to basically nag themselves just to kill that thing. On the other hand, it should actually go out with a Lacer, also be able to actually block units that are above its actual stat line. So 3 mana, 3/3, so it's whatever with effects. Overall, very solid design, and I think this has a lot of potential, especially with users that care about copying entombs and stuff like that.
Yeah. The Wick Weed is a 2-drop neutral 1/1 wax plant from Lux with summon. Create 2 1/1 copies of target unit that cost 3 or less. So this is again for the comp. What do we think of this? Grief, I'll let you start.
Basically, this is Green Man support.
Yeah.
Sure, you can sure you have probably better targets than just Green Man, but that's the only thing that comes to mind where you want to. Oh no! Forget what I said. This goes into the Flamingo deck.
Yes, this is more support for the Flamingo deck.
This goes into Flamingos. This goes into into KM Mingo. So we just play our Flamingo, copy it, have our 3 copies of Flamingo now on board. End of turn, we nuke the board for 9 damage.
Yes.
Solve the card. Next person.
What do you think?
Yeah, I like this design, but this is a very scary card. I think there's a lot of like really strong things you can do with this. Like one of the things I was thinking of is in oozes with intombs, and another really important one is this works with all the band members in Dunewalkers, which could get really scary depending on which member you make 2 copies of. And it fits quite well into the deck because it's a swarm card.
And it's neutral.
Yeah.
I love that it's neutral. Like
That's-
makes it that there's a lot of cool decks for this.
Yeah, the 1/1 copies means that a lot of buff setting stuff is going to shut off, so I can't do my normal thing of non-native support because this will actually shut off your Belfry buff, which is sad. But besides that, I still think this is interesting, and you could find a lot of interesting stuff to do with it. Because the entrance trigger would happen after it enters, so you can't indeed do this with green men. Yeah, just a good card. Wujek, what do you think?
Joker's turn to you get yourself 2 rogues or 2 climbers. This can see play in green man. This can see play in probably Lizabo, and that becomes a deck even. In fact, with this that javelin dude, this becomes really nice.
Oh yeah.
This can even see play in wax because targeting ruffling with this is actually not that bad considering that they got that 6 mana lord that gives your wax buffs whenever it's targeted. This is just an overall really good card. But I have one small gripe with it. And it is the smallest thing in the world.
What's that?
It creates regular copies, not wax copies, which is inconsistent with other Lux cards.
That is gonna get cosmetic. I will do it if no one else will. I'm just realizing that. That is sad.
It's
okay.
an extremely minor thing, but
I should have caught that. The
irks me.
contest rules say you show it back to the person who submitted the challenge. I do like how it's wax plant, so it references both the 1/1 copy makers. But like seriously, yeah. Now that you're saying that, that bugs me a lot. I do like how this is this is actually also really good support for the birds, even if you're not running either of those tribes. Like you could just run this as a 1-off or as a 1 or 2 off in birds, just to get your procs. And I don't even think that's bad, like because the card advantage you get off of it.
I'm gonna be completely honest. If this gets it, I expect it to be nerfed, but it's gonna be very fun until it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's doing pretty well in this up.
Dunewalker rogue play. That rogue turn 1, that turn 2 is terrifying.
Oh please, that turn rogue turn 1, archer turn 2, this turn 3 targeting archer. Now that's terrifying.
Eruption is an 8-drop mind action from Unguia, and the second card we've talked about that hasn't been for the comp. Deal 5 damage to all units, deal 3 damage to all units at the end of this turn. So it's just a board clear, but it's a little bit more exciting than a board clear because it also makes it harder to do the thing people normally do with board clears, which is I'm a board clear. Oh, but my opponent gets to develop their board. Oh no. Nope, you're gonna get hit by the second wave, dude. I don't know. I like it. Art's a little bit weird. I don't know what's going on with the squares in the background, but I like the fishies. Overall, this is cool. We need more effects that just do variants on this thing. I hear Neutron Bomb wasn't receiving a lot of play in multiplayer, so this is maybe a good one for mine to have. I don't really think there's much to say about it, but maybe I'm wrong. Wujek, what do you think?
Huh. The 2-mana 1/1 ooze that deals 3 damage, but deals 3 damage to face when the board is empty, actually has a purpose. It can actually hit face now. Wow, incredible. I'm kidding. The card was probably fine. Like this is mostly just reminds me of Earthquake from Hearthstone, because that's basically a very similar effect. It saddens me that the deal 3 damage has to happen at the end of turn, but it's also really interesting from a perspective that your opponent is not playing units unless they have more than 3 HP and probably regenerate as well on top of that. Or they have some Dooms that they want to trigger. It's just a good card, to be honest. Also,
Yeah.
it's a mind action that is not that probably would never be played in Ush.
That's cool. I agree with that.
Which, hey, that's nice.
Grief, what do
It's
you think?
possible. You can design mind actions without printing Ash support, guys.
I like everything about that card. What I would probably suggest would like the would make the 3 damage trigger at the end of the turn even more spicy. Would if it actually would hit everyone.
Oh, all units and all
and
players.
units.
That would be fun. That would be cute. I like
I
that.
actually like that. That's some nice burn. Would be a lot more fitting as well for the flavor of Eruption.
Yeah, I wanted to see for a long. What was it? I got so disappointed. There's a card in Magic that was released in Ixalan that was supposed to be this big world-destroying comet, and I was like, it deals like I think like some hilarious number like 10, maybe even more damage. I was like, why doesn't it just hit the players too? That would be so funny, and like that would be so cool to see.
Star of Extinction was.
Yeah, I thought Star of Extinction said all creatures, planeswalkers, and players. And I was like, that would have been so much cooler if they just did that.
Oh
Make me feel it.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
So many matches would end in draws.
Well, no, but that's the thing is if you wanted to run Star of Extinction, you'd have to play around it, right?
Yeah, that's actually one thing that I'm considering. I'm not sure if, funnily enough, dealing damage to players wouldn't make it a bit too bad.
Well, at least in the second shock, right? Maybe not both shocks, but maybe the second shock.
Maybe if it was just the second one, then sure. If it was first
only
and
the,
second.
Only the 3. The first one is a unit board wipe, but the third one is the aftershock that hits everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
MT, what do you think?
I'm looking at this from a perspective. This is a turn 8 board wipe. Like you are gonna be pretty low by then.
Yeah. I really like this design. I wish this was in Spirit. Mind already has like a good amount of removal and like board clears.
Yeah.
Spirit doesn't really have any, and this fits Spirit quite well. It plays into the old Spirit removal we have, which was an Earthquake from Unguian, and that was Spirit, so be like the next in the chain. It's fine at Mind, but I do want Spirit to have a board clear too.
So yeah, let's do this. Gets in. We're gonna do a cosmetic. It's gonna bump it to uncommon. That's fine. This is Spirit if you are on the bottom, and then make it hit players on the second shock, and then we're fine.
Honestly, if anything, I would like this in Strength. That is a very Strength board wipe, especially if it also hits players. And Strength does need board wipes more than Spirit. I feel Spirit already has Forest of Sinners and Peer into Flesh. Mind also doesn't have a lot of board wipes. No, Mind has 1. It's just that one board wipe that it does have is very versatile, being Absolute Storm.
Yeah.
Wilting.
Oh, sorry, Wilting.
Yeah.
I forgot that that's a card
That
because it hasn't seen play in a while.
Okay, to make everyone happy, make it neutral with the line "has your affinity."
Incredible.
Throw them all. Okay. I'm immensely in favor of this card. I'm gonna let you know before we even get to me saying the name. Troy Roll the Face is a 4-drop neutral 3/5 troll gambler from Wonderstar Casino. Summon, secretly select a trigger and effect for this to have. So this is a choose your own. This is a buffet style card, folks. The triggers when this is targeted by a card, when this takes damage, or when this attacks. Hopefully those are 3 things that are going to happen about the same number of times. The effects gives all units +1/+1. Each player draws a card, and each player loses 3 HP. Wow. This is, first of all, the frickin' the art on this is so cute. I know some people are going to hate it. Whatever. Screw you. I like this card. Second of all, the effects being all symmetric and a lot of them kind of like referencing the stuff on the trigger side. Like when you can do a lot of really, really like weird corner case stuff with it. And I'm just living for it. Notable fun stuff you could do. If you have the 1 unit that's going to survive a Forest of Cinders, you can say, when this takes damage, give all units +1/+1. and then you get some fun stuff happening. You could do what else could you do? There's lots of fun combos. Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, this is an amazing design. It's really fun. Like the mind games you can play with your opponent with this are great. Especially if they end up being at like really low HP and you do the lose 3 HP and your opponent has to guess whether you chose when this attacks or when this is targeted, or if they're going to remove this or not. Like there's really fun interactions with this. I think it's a great design.
Yeah. And it fits on a common because we figured out how to do text crunch wizardry. Grief, what do you think of this?
I love everything about this card. It's a command on a stick, and the best thing that you can do is choose a disattack trigger, because it's secretly, and anything else, and just pass with it on the board. Basically doing that, maybe we have making you drop, so you just play a control deck and they basically try to figure out, okay, he's not pinging it, he's not targeting it, he's not fucking attacking with it. What the hell is going on here? Do I remove it now? Do I waste removal on this? I love everything what this card stands for and the game states it can actually solve, funny enough, on its own because of the nature of the secret selection of the triggers. On the other hand, you can really build a deck with this card, supporting your game plan, but pivoting depending on the game state.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Is like there's two kinds of versatility. There's a versatility that's like, oh man, I can build around this because it synergizes with a lot of stuff. Then there's the other versatility that is, I can improvise with this, and I don't need to build around this stuff, right? And this is the second one. This is just, I'm going to do some improv and just have some fun and do some mind games. Wujek, what do you think of this?
If anyone feels like doing a little bit of trolling with this lad, do the draw trigger and take your thought suppressors. Mr. Still Your Turn is back in center. What makes me sad about this though is that there is actually a way to just completely ignore all the mind games with this card.
Which
the
is?
triggers are when this is targeted, when this takes damage, when this attacks. No when this dies or when this is chosen. So Plasma Invocation just kills it. The second half of it at least.
Yeah, so you got, well, we have one
is-
card that does that.
Yeah, which is a little sad, but I mean, hey, it works.
Well, yeah, but when this dies kind of like overlaps with so many of the other modes that would have felt redundant.
Oh
I
yeah,
think.
absolutely. I don't think the card should have them. Like I think the card is
No.
perfectly fine as is. It just kind of saddens me that Plasma Invocation just completely goes around the mind games, but that's a Plasma Invocation thing. Whoop-de-doo. Also, this card is weird because it feels overcurved, but I don't think it is, just because of the fact that all the effects are symmetrical.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting card.
Camelo, the Oceanhopper, is a 14-cost mind exclusive 9/9 dinosaur kaiju from Unguian with ward overrun. If this costs 0 or less, win the game. Oh, summon if this costs 0 or less, win the game. Bounce any number of units. Permanently reduce their cost by 3. When you draw this, choose Hop or Stay. The Hop mode permanently discounts it by 2. Shuffle them into the top 10 cards of your deck. Create a puddle. The Stay mode just lets it stay in your hand. And the puddle is a 1-drop fast draw card. So the whole idea behind this is I want to get this thing back in and out of my deck as many times as humanly possible. Might synergize with, say, like a Door to Elsewhere, because Door lets you avoid drawing things. No, because then you could just hop shuffle them. Yeah, this is interesting. And it's an alt win con, so we got to talk about that. And it feels very big in multiple senses. And of course, because it's exclusive, that limits potential, like just dropping his cost all the way to 6, and then he gets a little more boring. But as this, I feel he might be a little bit slow, but I would just defer to people who know multiplayer numbers to give me the answer to that. Empty, what do you think of this?
I think the main problem with this card is that, like, the way you're intended to use it is like completely unviable, and no one would ever do it. Like the only way you're going to want to use this is if you can break it somehow. Because like hopping this away, like X number of times over and over again, is just insanely slow, and you're giving yourself bad cards in your hand every time you do it. Also, with this way the summon is worded, I'm not sure this like might be able to bounce itself when you play it, because I'm assuming it opens up a choose window after it comes into play.
It can bounce itself. That's one of my main two gripes with the card. actually.
Yeah, so that's kind of a problem as well, because as soon as you play this the first time, you bounce the whole board and this, and then you just do that every turn until this costs 0 and you win. So it like locks your opponent out of the game unless they have agile units. So that's potentially problematic. I just think there's a few issues with this card that need to be resolved before I feel like I
Yeah,
like the design.
yeah. I think as far as the practical aspects of this, it might need some tuning. Now that I'm hearing you guys talking, Grief, what do you think?
And this may sound very odd. This is just a combo card, which either relies on a bounce effect, where you want to bounce the correct copies to get something similar to a King Duke started. On the other hand, the only place where I can see this card actually being played is, funny enough, in Tusknewt. Problem is, Tusknewt is very anti-synergistic with its cost reduction effect, because Tusknewt negates cost reductions of other cards, because it sets the cost of units to 1, because it cannot be reduced below 0.
Yeah.
By the way, we have a card named Idle Contract now in the game.
You still have to get the cost all the way down, and then yeah, you could idle contract this.
So you can idle contract this. Even if you don't get a win con off, you still get a bounce effect, and it depends on how you build your shell. There's a lot of very roundabout ways you want to probably utilize this, but there's nothing in particular that actually justifies this card's existence, besides re-triggering summons from places where this card shouldn't be. Other part, I utterly hate the hop and stay mechanic, not because it's not a good mechanic, but because the payoff of it is utterly garbage.
Yeah.
Why am I getting a 1-cost draw 1 card in neutral for basically trying to get this thing up and going? You never. I would rather much have the 0-cost card to actually, oh yeah, I've drawn the Camelo. It's too costly to work towards that to draw a card, because either I want to re-trigger Camelo as fast as possible, or I want to draw a card past my Camelo, because I just want to get going in that aspect.
Yeah. I want to like this card so much. I don't really think I can. Maybe the puddle doing something else. The other thing is you're revealing every single time you draw this guy. Like your opponent's going to be like, "Oh, I wonder what happened. Better check the lock." And so it's super telegraphed. It takes too long, and the only thing that's good about it's only good if it's broken. Yep. And I don't know. Wujek, what do you think?
I think I'm the only person who actually really, really likes the design. Funnily enough, this is actually a self-fill win card for standard if it gets in. Because if this is the only card in the deck, you can constantly replay the pond and constantly get it down.
Yeah, the thing is though, it would probably make more sense if puddle would only cost 0, because...
Oh, absolutely. I do think that the puddle should cost 0, honestly. I do think that there are a few things that need to be changed. 1, puddle costs 0. You're giving up a draw, basically, You don't want to essentially thought suppress yourself when you hop with this guy. 2, this should not be able to target itself with its summon, as that just leads to basically infinite board stalling until you just win the game. And 3, Jesus Christ, remove the randomness from the hop. As the fact that this can either be your next card or 10 from the top
Yeah.
is kind
Since
of
you already
dumb.
have to telegraph it, why don't you make it set it to a specific number? Then that encourages, like, oh, I need to get a certain critical mass of scour going or something else, you know?
Other than that, I honestly really like this.
Okay.
It's one of my personal favorite
I-
Twinkle designs I've seen. It's just really fun to build around.
I want to like it. I just think it needs some tuning before it can
Yeah,
be
it does
built
need
around
some
it
work,
needs to.
yes.
Okay, the only AC card we're talking about. Deadman's Advocate is a 5-drop spirit 3/7 undead specter lawyer from Walnocked. Lawyer tribal, let's go. Deadly fast rebound. When a unit enters a graveyard, your opponent loses HP equal to half its cost rounded up. So I was surprised when I was looking at this design to see that Grief, well, no, I guess I'm not that surprised, to see that Grief, knowing all of the things that can be done to do like absolute like borderline broken jank with this card, would print this card. And then I thought, it's Grief. He doesn't care. He wants to do all of those things. Like,
Yes.
Grief, talk to me about the design process and convince me this is a balanced card. That's what I want from you.
Okay, yes. Okay, to sell you the card on a Timmy perspective, this makes Tyrant Dragon playable. Okay, now to the actual evaluation of the card. Funny enough, it was actually a different design and with different keyword spreads and so on and so forth. So I rebranded it to the lawyer. That's why it has deadly, fast, and rebound. Before it was more a spider theme. And fast is basically the case to actually play into him. Deadly, so regardless of affinity where you're playing him off, even with an off affinity attacks, you can still fight cards that have a better stat spread or more value at higher costs, regardless of his attack stat. And the rebound, so yeah, sure, they wasted the removal on this card, or he died during a interaction with a unit, but you still get him back. So you don't really get too much problem. You don't really get into too much problem with him, even if you're playing him off affinity, which is a good upside because the trigger condition of his effect is so very flexible. He plays into mill, discard, destruction, regardless of affinity. And I wanted a cross affinity burn-esque effect that helps out different playstyles. Because some of the time our changes zone effects or playstyles lack some oomph or win conditions to go into. And he basically fills that spot perfectly, especially with our mid-range resurgence in green, where we want to try more mid-range undead effects. On top of that, he also works very good into that mid-range undead playstyle because he triggers off your self-recurring undeads in Legacy. He triggers off any kind of board wipe or even notable grave rave.
Yeah, that's
So-
the thing I was worried about most was like
So
Grave Rave.
So he's very versatile in his uses, and he basically also shuts down decks that rely on his mechanics that I've just mentioned. Any self-mill, any self-discard deck has now attacks to pay for their effects.
But the thing I was trying to do is convince me that this card isn't busted, and all you've done is said every possible way to synergize with it, and 2 or 3 I wasn't thinking of.
But then again, as I said, you can synergize with it. But if your opponent plays the same unit on top of you, he's basically a stacks unit that that hurts every kind of self mill or unfair mechanic that you usually get free.
Yeah, he is. Stacks. That's a good way to. Well, but stacks is more symmetric. This is just.
It's symmetric because it counts both players' graveyards.
Exactly.
But this only hurts your opponent. It's a symmetric drawback.
But you still have to consider that it is the cost rounded up, so it's still only half the damage.
Yeah.
Most of the time. But
well, okay, so I'm playing against Blue. They got 5/1 drops.
That's
I play
damage.
this. I play a Grave Rave. I have no other cards, and I just dealt them 8 damage and locked their board down for a turn.
Yeah, but that's a 9 mana combo.
Yeah.
10 mana actually. Grave
A 10 mana, Grave Rave costs 5.
Okay. I don't know. MT, what do you think of this?
I do think this is very strong. It's kind of hard to tell the balance level. I love the design though.
I do. I just think it's too pushed. Or I'm worried it's too pushed. I don't care. I don't play multiplayer, but
sort of a meme deck, but I think running this with Memory Drain would be hilarious because it has fast too, so your opponent can't stop you.
Believe it or not, it's not actually not unrealistic. There have been attempts in Legacy to run a Brandisher of Souls with Memory Drain.
Yes.
Mostly done by me.
Can't I just kill you by memory draining myself?
I mean, that is
Yes,
hilarious.
you can.
As I said, this plays very well with the meme of Tyrant Dragon because Tyrant Dragon builds your entire deck.
So yeah, I'm gonna run a strength deck with Essence Shifter, and I'm just gonna run every Spectre and Heldim or something, and I'm gonna run 3 copies of Memory Drain in this. So I have all that off affinity penalty, buffing the roundup.
I mean, you could, if you really want to go with the Essence Shifter route, you could say you're not running Memory Drain, but the self-discarder effects and Penumbra in single player.
Oh yeah.
Because it then reduces the gun.
If you're playing just single player, you're not playing League.
Yeah.
Essence Shifter, Penumbra, use them Ruku. Juicy.
But yeah, just all my cards have rebound, so I don't care about discarding my hand and Memory Drain, and so yeah, it's a super fun build around. I guess this is the multiplayer's person's problem. My only problems with this is balance issues, and that's usually a non-problem for me because I'm not playing against any of you guys. Wujek, what do you think of this?
To try to explain to you why I think that this card, while is strong, probably won't break the game. It's a 5 mana do nothing. It's pretty slow when you just play it. It's like
But 5 mana do nothing. But what this has rebound.
yeah, okay.
So
You still need to play
it's
it
gonna
again.
trade up to
It
removal.
doesn't return to play. You still need to play it again. That's the thing.
It's gonna
It is a
trade up to
very
removal,
slow
though.
Play. Yeah. I mean, yeah. In card advantage. But in mana, no.
Yeah. Well, it's at 5. It might even trade up. Well, not
No,
quite. We have
no, there's
removal
no
at 4
way.
now. Our removal suite's improved since I was thinking about it. Yeah.
But yeah, that's the main thing that actually balances this card out. Holy crap, this boy is slow. And that's a good thing for the record.
But I can
But yeah.
kill you at 7 with this and a Memory Drain.
I mean, yes, in Legacy.
And
In Legacy, you can die on turn 4 against Flames and Dwarves.
Fair. Okay.
I'm
I'll
gonna
see
be honest,
my
the
case
main
on
reason
this
why
one.
I actually picked this over the other undead cards from the AC. Because I wanted to pick at least one AC card.
So yeah, those
The
last 3
difference
are
between this and the other AC cards is that the other AC cards are pretty much just undead cards. This is so much more.
They're
and I love every
undead
bit
cards
of
in
it.
that they have the undead tribe. This is undead cards in that it feels undead. No.
Oh no, this
Thank
is
you.
the undead card that you just can fiddle around in so many decks. You don't give a shit about undead. Like, you're not playing undead. You don't have to. You can play Memory Dragon. You can play Tyrant Dragon. You play so much.
Yeah.
And it's great. And I love every bit of it.
Okay. I'm going to stop the share. This was fun. This was such a fun week. I'm going to toot my own horn and say that this contest has produced some amazing designs so far, and I'm so excited to see what it'll do for the rest of the month of April. It's not too late to get in on it. Gokhan already has a lot of points, but there's plenty of other people. Prompts still up there. New 8s and 7s being released. Some of them are really tricky, but maybe you can give it a shot, you know? So I'd encourage everyone who's on the Discord to participate, even if you just want to submit prompts. And if you're not on the Discord, get on the Discord. That's where the action's at. Thank you so much to Grief and Empty and Wujek for joining me today.
You're welcome.
Especially you, Wujek. Good to have you on. See you back again once your guest cooldown is up, probably. So yeah. Keep on playing Collective. Like, comment, and subscribe. Remind me why I'm doing this, and keep on voting on cards. Bye.
Wait a second.
Oh,
We
wait.
have an announcement to make. On Monday, the next month of the monthly Legacy League will start. So if you haven't actually checked out the Legacy League, I will send out a link again into the general channel or the tournament channel, so you can actually apply for the server. We play on those strict ban list rules, restricted rules, so to actually balance out the league, and not most bullshit honeypot will be played in that month. You can basically be rewarded for any kind of amount you play, and depending on how much you play, you can even rank up. And depending on the rank up, you get rewards. What rewards do you ask? Well, Amber, and you can actually see the table breakdown on what rank you need to have, and the Amber that we are paying you to actually participate in the league. Yep, we're paying more than single player. So just hop on over if you're interested. No problem. We will also hit you up with interesting decks that were played last month in the March event, and maybe even fiddle around with deck building for this month. So I wish you a very grateful month of April, and hopefully I see you around.
Oh, also, someone in the comments, tell me how many times Grief has said some variant on the phrase, "I love everything about this card this episode," because I think Grief might be suffering from some sort of like mental, I think he hit his head. Because he said it like 6 or 7 times.
I've stared too long at Excel sheets to actually prepare the ranking system for this month.
Too busy being 5 people for the tournament, and the 5 tournament organizers have all been Grief. So again, like, comment, and subscribe. Keep playing, keep voting. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.